Hello, and welcome to Flip the Script episode 7. Today is a special Flip the Script because we have a guest who isn't in AV, which is even more exciting. We actually have lives outside of AV. So with that note, let's get to our co-hosts down in the hay.
Yay!
We're back.
We're
I'm
back.
double.
Oh no. Well, that's okay.
Quinn.
I like it.
Can
How's it
never have
going,
too much
guys?
Kelly. I'm good. I had a big adventure. I was on a trip.
You left the house.
I left the house. I was hours
How'd it
away
go?
from the house. Well, it's good to be back.
So it went really well then. Okay. Good.
No, the trip was great. I got to see a lot of people love in the industry, and it was a big event. It was, keynotes from Amazon and Cisco and Microsoft and Zoom and Ring Central and
That Enterprise Connect.
Enterprise Connect.
What was your
Awesome.
favorite part about the event?
Seeing my fellow analysts and friends in the industry. The chats in between the chats in between the sessions, chats in between the meetings.
What do you guys talk about?
That's a lot of the same conversation over and over again.
Do
What do you think of the
analyze each other?
keynote?
Just analyze
What
each
do
other
you-
back and forth.
What do you think of the big announcements?
What was the biggest announcement?
Well, okay. The second biggest announcement is that I have a new video up on my channel. Can I do self promotion? Is that allowed
Is
here?
this like a shameless plug for you?
Yeah. No, it's a little shameful. I'm feeling a little shame.
Okay, who
Shameful
is it?
plug. Polly has new earbuds,
Oh, wow.
and they gave me a case. I'm listening to you on them right now, and they're wireless, which I like. And they have a little recharger case that has a touchpad on it that shows like this connect. Well, I can't show you, but batteries and all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
And there's a video on my YouTube channel unboxing.
That's
So
cool.
the second biggest thing to happen at Enterprise Connect was a pair of like earphones.
No, the fact that I made a video.
Oh, okay, cool.
About the headphones. But yeah.
Yeah. I have more videos I'm going to make, and they'll also be the biggest.
Okay.
But there was. Should we go to the news?
Yeah,
Because
is this the
they're-
Let's
biggest
do it.
Yeah.
announcement?
Yeah, this is pretty big, I think. So, okay. So you and AV know that setting up video meeting rooms is still really complicated and hard, way harder than it should be. It's one of the hardest things about setting up meeting rooms because you think, oh, if I'm going to use Microsoft Teams or Zoom, well, I got the Zoom app on my phone, I got the Zoom app on my computer, I'll just bring in a laptop and run the Zoom app. It doesn't work that way. It's a separate thing. It's called Zoom Rooms. It's a separate license. It's a separate software. It's a separate product. Microsoft Team Rooms, you don't, because it has the calendar and it reserves the room and the way it does the sharing if you want to screen share and stuff. You can't just use the regular one. You got to use a special one. Special one doesn't come as an app. You can't get Microsoft Teams Room as an app. You can't get Zoom Rooms as an app and put it on your computer. You have to get it as part of a device. You get a device, go to the Zoom or Microsoft website. They have partners with Logitech or Poly. You get a Poly video speaker bar, and it's a Zoom Rooms speaker bar. It's running Zoom Rooms on it. Or you get a Microsoft Teams speaker bar, and it's running Microsoft Teams on it. And no one's happy with that because, okay, so now I got the Zoom one, and now it's a Zoom Room. But someone invited us to Teams. What do we do? Oh, everyone's going to call in on the laptops. No, I mean, I'm going to buy 2 speaker bars. I'm going to get a Zoom.
Wait a minute. So you can't just download it as like an upgrade?
No, you can't download it as a software. You can download the
Really?
phone app. Yes, and this is such a big deal. It's been a thing for a while. There was a big Twitter fight about it like a year ago. A former CEO in our industry, who's a CEO in other industries now, who everybody still respects a lot, like, this is ridiculous. Give us room apps. You can't do this to us. I'm trying to get video conferencing in my company, and I don't know what to do. And they don't talk. You can't call from Zoom to Teams to WebEx. Same thing with WebEx. I keep saying Zoom and Teams. WebEx should be part of that. So everyone's been unhappy. Everyone's been frustrated. The best they've been able to do for a while was some of these companies like Poly and Logitech would have one that would have dual modes. It could be a Microsoft Teams, and you could reboot it into Zoom mode. Or you could reboot.
Yep.
So you got to
Oh my
reboot
God,
it
what a
between meetings,
pain.
right? So everyone's mad. Everyone's upset. Finally, the big announcement was during the Microsoft keynote. the Cisco keynote speaker comes out on stage and they're all like, hey, good to see you. We've been friends. We've been talking. Like, whoa, these guys haven't been talking. And then during the Cisco keynote, the Microsoft keynote speaker comes out and it's the head of Microsoft Teams and everything. He's like, hey, let's show us what we got here. And he took out the Cisco board, which runs Cisco meetings, and you're used to it. It has a calendar and it shows all your meetings and which WebEx meeting you're going to join. It had WebEx and Teams meetings on the same calendar. You walk in the room, look at the calendar. It doesn't matter if it's WebEx or Teams. You don't got to reboot it. Right? In native mode. You just make a Teams call in native mode. And it's still controversial because, they're very proud of it, announcing it, and some analysts on Twitter are like, it's still not really, that's compatibility. That's not interop. It's compatible running an app on your phone. It's not interop. It's not like I can't talk to each other between them. I can't. I can't.
What about Zoom?
They're going to do Zoom too, is what they were talking in Google and all of them. This is the first of it, but that's the idea, is that you're going to be able to just use, ideally you should be able to use whatever board, Poly, Logitech, any kind of thing, and just have them all. But so it's like, on the one hand, it's like, so we get this so far? That's all we're getting? But it's such a step in the right direction. Totally. Just the fact that Cisco isn't going to be like, the way it is in the past, it's like, the best experience is WebEx. If you're using a Cisco board, just use WebEx. Don't even think about Teams. Don't even think about Zoom. It's use our software.
Sad that I thought they all did this already.
That's the way the world should work. Of course,
that's how it should be. Yeah,
that's how we all feel. We're all shocked, and we're like, well, but, and when PC people complain, they're like, well, you're just doing it wrong. It has to. You must not have the right add-ins. There must be some way to do it. No, you got to buy a Teams, a speaker bar, or buy video bar, or a Zoom video bar.
That's so dumb. So then you basically have to have one right next to each other.
You have three, or just say we're only
Google Meet.
Pharmacist has this conversation at least 10 times a week, just because.
Seriously?
See?
Yeah, just because someone will come in and say, I want to do a Zoom room, but the client also wants to use Teams. I'm like, well, I've got some bad news for you. And then we have the same conversation over and over again of like, if you want to do one, you have to standardize on one, and then basically BYOD anything else, right? And then we help out with that. Like, that's possible. There's solutions for that. But if you want to use, as David was saying, Teams room and Zoom room, you have to have two parallel systems in the same room, and it's just the silliest thing of all time. It's so silly. But I get it. It's a money grab kind of thing. Everyone wants to, it's our way or the highway kind of mentality, and that's just how companies like that are. I'm shocked that we got this far. Actually, I'm like Dave said, I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm glad.
It's huge. It seems like a little.
Together. Yeah,
but for someone who like Fang, who knows the history, is huge. It's very big. It's very big. And it shows that Enterprise Connect has relevant updates and information for Farm AV. Maybe they should be sponsoring you guys to hang out with me next year, so I won't be lonely. The show.
Hint, hint, cough, cough. I think that'd be awesome.
Right?
Where was it again?
Goat's horn is in my face a little bit.
That's your microphone, actually.
So we have to.
Ouch.
Careful. I'll have to. We can move the goat a little bit. It looks like the goat is doing the press conference, which cracks me up.
I'm pretty sure he is.
So that's the big news, and I'm sure Farm AV and Farm AV customers hopefully will be, even in the short term, have some benefits. Some people right away, if they're, I think a lot of people are having the Zoom Teams battle, but there are people that are having the WebEx Teams battle. Get this new Cisco device, and that battle's over.
And it makes sense that it would be WebEx, since isn't it last week that you told us that WebEx is becoming free? Was that happened last week?
Blue Jeans. It's Blue Jeans.
That's what it was.
Verizon.
That's right.
Blue Jeans by Verizon.
Yes.
Is that what it's called now?
I don't know.
Blue Jeans by Verizon. Okay, one thing before we move on to our next segment. Okay, but you brought it up. I just found an old Blue Jeans t-shirt, and when the company first started, they were a very small company. They were trying to make waves and trying to get noticed. So sometimes their marketing was a little bit so the t-shirt says, "Meet me in my blue jeans."
Brilliant. brilliant. Honestly, like,
And I'm
just
not.
the
And they
idea of-
stopped doing that. They're very early on. They stopped that very quickly. But for the first couple shows, they were giving away shirts that said things like that.
I mean,
mean,
it's
just
no
the idea
name
of
our
a blue-
chicken.
the blue jeans t-shirt idea alone of just a t-shirt that just says blue jeans on it is funny in and of itself. But good for them for taking that one step further. Good for them.
And with that, are we ready for our next segment? My favorite segment. Dun, 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 dun,
If you get my helmet on, there we go.
Aw,
Perfect.
back. It's beautiful nature.
I don't know why we
Yay.
keep doing this. This is so dangerous. I don't know how to drive any of these. So I have a story today that isn't necessarily AV related, since we're kind of going off the beaten path AV wise. And we're out in nature, so I think a good nature story would be fun. My dad raised me on motocross for the longest time. So dirt bikes were a big thing in our
Cool.
house. Yeah, it was very cool. That didn't mean I was good at it. We had them and we used them, but we were all bad at it. There were times where we would, just take it to our local outdoor park, and they have like little tracks that you could just bop around on when you're a kid and just go around and around, go on jumps and do things like that. And then outside of that, they have trails that you could just kind of go for basically the whole day and just explore and then come back and then take off. And so I kind of saw that as the scary place. Like, I got used to the circle. Like, as soon as I mastered the circle, I was the master of my domain. I could figure that out forever and just live there for the rest of my life.
By
then
just
my
going
dad-
around and around in it.
Yeah, because there's jumps and there's turns.
Okay.
And granted, it's the same one for the 20th time, but it's still fun. And my dad, at one point, it was just me and him, and he challenged me to follow him outside into the trail area. And I got nervous. I was a little scared. I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. So we're going out, and it's rocky, it's bumpy, it's it's new. And so I'm a little nervous, a little scared. And but then eventually, after about 10, 15 minutes, I get used to the idea. So I'm having a lot of fun going around and let my dad go in front of me. And back at this time, we wore helmets and the boots. We didn't have the full padded gear. We didn't have like knee pads or anything. It was just basically helmet and boots. And why that's important is because my dad's, driving off, being all super impressive. I'm like in awe of like this guy who's just not scared of rocks, I guess. And he just like goes over this hill, this berm, and I just like kind of see him like get crooked midair, kind of like a cartoon.
Oh,
And then I
God.
see him go on the other side of the hill, and then I don't hear a thing again. And then I go and I drive up to him, and he has just collapsed on the ground, just laid out. And which was weird because my dad at the time was like a superhero. So I was like, oh no, Superman died. And so I'm like helping him get back on his bike. He's fine. And then we get back in the car, and he's like, all right, we're done for the day, which is that's a good sign that you're done for the day. And so we load up and we're driving away. And I get really hungry, and I'm not like, how would you say, the most patient kid. I was just super like, if I wanted a thing, I was like, hey, I really want this thing. And I was kind of a brat about it. Right. So I'm like, Dad, let's get Carl's Jr. And he's got one hand on his ribs, and he's just driving as hard as he can. He's like, no, we're not getting Carl's Jr. And I'm like, but I'm really hungry. And he's like, no, we're not getting Carl's Jr. We're just going to go home. And I was like, okay. But what if we got Carl's Jr.? And he had to insist, and it was all that he could do to not just like reach over and just smack me in the face. Come to find out, he broke 3 ribs and ruptured his spleen and had to be rushed to the hospital that next morning.
Oh my
And so-
God.
And so I wake up the next morning to get ready for school, and there's just like firemen and paramedics in my house for some reason. My mom's, running around because she hung dry her laundry like it's right through our doorways, like people do sometimes. She's like taking down, her nethers because she didn't want the paramedics and the firemen to see her underwear hanging up in the doorways. And so it's just it was a whole scene. And needless to say, the guilt I felt afterward, like that, the rest of that day of just me being like, oh, my dad almost died, but I just wanted a cheeseburger.
Oh.
He was fine. He came out the other side, and we went back riding out pretty soon after that, after he healed up. So it, obviously didn't hinder that at all, but that was just like the funniest thing of me just being a total butthole to my dad, who's just got 3 broken ribs, just trying to get home.
Do you have any
yeah.
photographs? I would love to see photographs of you in like motocross gear from when you're like 12.
Yes.
I got a whole mess of them. Yeah, but I think what you're gonna want to see more is my dad, because he's 6'3" and he's a motorcycle mechanic, so he just has like the overall vibe. But he's got like a tattoo here or there, but he's also got a beard down to his waist, and so to see that fly over a hill on a dirt bike with one leg just hanging off, like I said, it was very cartoonish.
Oh my
And but he's still a badass. Like he obviously made it out the other side, and it was so. I'll show you guys some pictures sometime. But
I would love to see that.
yeah, of course,
Well, I'm glad you guys are okay.
we made it somehow. And now I'm hang gliding. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Right?
I'd stay on the ground after that.
You'd think, but I'm a thrill chaser.
So on to our next segment.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Let's
it.
do it.
I should be sympathetic to that story, but all I'm thinking is I want Carl's Jr. now.
Right?
I'm worse than you. Or at least we're on the same
Question.
level.
Is
Yes.
Carl's Jr. the same thing as Hardee's?
Yes.
Okay. They're just like different areas geographically. Maybe.
I don't know
Sure.
where the line is. I knew they called it something. I don't know if they call it Hardee's. They definitely call it something different in Pennsylvania. So
Okay.
I remember seeing the Star and some other name that wasn't Carl's Jr. and that just blowing my mind. But
Because
yeah.
I've never had Carl's Jr., but I've had Hardee's.
I think you've had Carl's Jr.
Okay. Okay. Glad we clarified.
And with that, we're ready to introduce our guest.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yay!
Welcome,
Up on
Marty.
the farm. Oh, we have some lighting issues there, a little backlighting, but I think it's okay.
Yeah.
There we
Fine
go.
over there.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for having me. Good to be here, you guys.
Thanks
you.
for being here.
Marty, you're okay. So Marty Scheel is part of the organization called Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship.
That's correct.
Trail Stewardship. That the farm has, at least our CEO and several people in the organization have been a part of in some capacity for a decade, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you could give us an intro about yourself and about the organization and fill us in a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, we are a trail building organization, economic development organization. We were founded in 2003, so we're looking at our 20th anniversary this year.
Cool.
And yeah, so we build and maintain trails throughout the Lost Sierra, which is the more northern portion of the Sierra Nevada mountains in Northern California. I manage all the partnerships and sponsorships ranging from events all the way up to the stewardship, where we're bringing in philanthropic dollars or product to help support all of our programs. And of course, the farm is definitely one of our larger partners with everything that they help us with, mostly on the event side for obvious reasons, from audio to video. But yeah, so it's been a fun ride. I'm also the voice of the classic in our events. So if you do come to one of our events, you're going to hear me on the microphone ad nauseum from when the event starts and until the band plays, at least on Saturday night. But yeah, so our current charge is called Connected Communities, and this is basically connecting 15 mountain communities via multi-use single track trail, which includes moto. So
Nice. Very cool.
if you're ready to get out there and fly with your dad again, and no broken ribs, and you may be able to. I don't know if there's any Carl's Juniors within the 15 other than the bigger cities, but I'm sure there's there's some really good bacon Western cheeseburgers out there that are not Carl's
All
Jr.
right.
But yeah,
We'll
give
make
us a
do
try.
then. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so we're trying to find ways to continue to support outdoor recreation using trails as the tool, bring folks into Lost Sierra, but do it responsibly so they're spread out, so you don't have instances where you're overburdened, with traffic like Truckee or Moab when it's full blown middle of summer and feels like you're standing in line at Disneyland, as well as give these communities some additional influx of either one, bringing folks in that may want to choose that for their homestead and live there, or recreate. And it's a trail that brings people into the towns, unlike the John Muir or the PCT, which of course you can't ride a bike on or a moto. but these trails come right into the town. So you can go to the pub, go to restaurants, you can stay at a hotel, you can camp in a closed campground, and really kind of create or assist with some of the economic development side, because many of these towns in the La Sierra, resource extraction was their main industry, which is logging and mining, and most of that's gone by the wayside. So we're trying to help and find a way to support these communities, because it's great growing up mountain life, but you got to have jobs and you got to have houses. So we're trying to support that.
That's
so
great.
cool. So
Yeah,
what
that's
is
very cool.
what is the La Sierra? Like what does that term mean? Just for folks like me who live in Dallas.
So the term came actually from a book, and I believe it was based on a postal carrier at the time. What they started calling the La Sierra, because they were literally out delivering mail through mining towns, using literally the trails that the miners built and used, or the native peoples built. Even hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago, and it'd be very easy to get lost in these mountains. And it was basically, I'm headed into the La Sierra, because once you're in there, you're basically in the middle of nowhere. So it's been compounded over time, and folks use it just kind of a generalization of area from Sierra County, Plumas County, Lassen County, would be a good way from south to north. And then ranging from the mountains that are heading into Nevada towards Reno, and then heading towards the west, like Chico as well. So that's kind of the surrounding area over there in Butte County.
Cool. So how many miles of trail have you guys created or developed?
So within this program, we're still under 100 miles. We've got over 100 in what's called ground truthing, and getting ready to go into environmental. Because unlike the John Muir and most of the PCT, we have to follow all the special rules now, which is good, because we're going through sensitive lands, from flora, fauna, animals, native sites, watersheds. The Plumas County, we're at the headwaters of the largest watershed in California, and most people's water, unless it comes from an individual reservoir where they live, comes from here, or it starts here anyway.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but over the 20 years of the stewardship, since 2003, this year we're going to hit 100 miles of brand new trail, meaning trail that has never ever existed before, built from scratch, so to speak. But we maintain, over 1,500 miles of trail system. So yeah, each year after the winter, trees are across the trail, deadfall, we go in and clear it. If it's a heavy winter like this one, there's potential for washouts on the trail, and our crews, pro crews and youth crew, go back in and rebuild and harden to make them a little bit more durable for future generations to use.
Cool.
That's awesome.
This really helps. Like you said, the communities get tourism and just come to visit and stay in their hotels and eat at their restaurants and stuff. That's super cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and from early on, when Greg and a couple of folks, Greg Williams, our executive director, started the stewardship in 2003, and most of us were already volunteering at events, like the Downeyville Classic at the time was our only event. And the very first purchase was a chainsaw, and to start helping clear the trails of Downeyville, just because the Forest Service no longer had the physical resources to go do that. And at the time, Greg, he was running a shuttle business of bringing people up and taking them up to the top so they could bomb the downhill. And that's pretty tough to do when you've got trees over the trail. So first purchase was a chainsaw, and then the second purchase was also a chainsaw, to get the first chainsaw unstuck from the tree that they got it stuck in. And I believe to this day, we still have both of those chainsaws, and they'll be showcased a little bit later on this year.
That's cool.
That's funny.
That's awesome. So are you a big biker?
Oh yeah, love mountain biking. Got into it in the early days, and it just kind of stuck with me. And at the time, I was living in El Dorado Hills there in Northern California, and befriended a local bike shop owner. And from that point, first trip up to Downeyville, and that was it. I was sold. It just became a part of me, and of course that turned into volunteering. Raced a little bit, but volunteering mostly for the Coyote Classic, which turned into the Downeyville Classic, and for years. And it started in 1995. And then somewhere around 2003, we had a person that would kind of be on a microphone, carry around a little portable system or a megaphone, just doing some basic announcements for the event. and we weren't quite as grown up as we are now, and he was sick that year, and the river jump always needed at least some sort of announcement, because it's great content, good fun. It literally is an 80-foot ramp with a big kicker,
Nice.
adults on smaller bikes like a BMX style bike, and then you land in the confluence of the Downey and the Yuba rivers, and so literally
That's
landing in
wild.
the river. Yeah, and so it needs some colorful announcing. So I volunteered. I had some equipment there with me at that year. And I don't know why exactly I had it there, other than maybe the company I worked for, we were maybe one of the sponsors. So I just volunteered to do it. And yeah, that was in 2003, and well, it stuck. So 20 years later, I'm the official announcer of everything SBTS and the Downeyville Classic.
That's cool.
The rest
Nice.
That's awesome. You know what I love about this whole approach is, like, a lot of times it's hard to get conservation going because we say we want to protect this area of nature where there's these awesome animals and awesome trees and awesome plants and everything, and people say, well, there's no people there. We don't care about that. I care about my neighborhood. I care about where I live. But what you're doing is you're tying the people to the nature. It's not just about, oh, this is a beautiful mountain. Oh, there's some cool animals that live here. There's paths that are for tourists that go to the restaurants where people, where the businesses have. It's not just about preserving it because, some hippie people like me like that stuff. It's preserving it because it's tied to the local economy now. Now it's just a business thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it really helps, and it allows for, folks, especially if you're a youth and growing up, in these communities too. And I grew up in a small community in Lake County, and, the day after I graduated from high school, I was gone and swore I'd never come back, and ended up living there collectively for almost 40 years. So obviously I went back. But yeah, a lot of times there aren't great reasons or enough jobs or maybe even educational institution to support, post high school or what you want to do. So we're just trying to find ways for the youth to be able to hang around, at least for the summertime, have a job, and definitely help local businesses. And it brings in outside, business that come in, and, maybe they'll see the recreation component and want to take a risk, and say, hey, this place looks great. I'd like my children to grow up here, and I'll take a risk and open a small business. And we want to make sure that, responsibly, we're putting people in the town to patronize those businesses.
So like, now I really want to go visit this area because I had never really heard of it before. And I'm from the Midwest, but I live in Texas now. But this is going to be like one of my future trips coming up to see all of this. Like, can you rent bicycles up there? So
Yeah,
I don't have to carry that with and stuff. Like, you can make a trip out of it, like a long weekend trip or something, and utilize.
Yeah, absolutely. From Quincy, where I live here, and then down into Downeyville, there are bike rentals. Our shop, Yuba Expeditions, is here in Quincy, and we rent mountain bikes, both e-bike and acoustic bikes. And then we used to have that same shop in Downeyville, but now there is a full-time shop in Downeyville called Downeyville Outfitters, and they rent bikes as well. So so the town of Downeyville is ready. You could just show up, get off the plane in Reno or Sacramento, hit Downeyville. 3 nice hotels to stay in there, right on the rivers. So you can rent a bike. There's plenty of restaurants. Yeah. And
Nice.
Quincy on our side, the trails are a little bit easier to ride if you're an avid mountain biker, and at least middle experience to more advanced. The Downeyville's great. If you're new, then probably the Quincy side, Mount Huff, would be a little bit better. And then of course too, if you're lucky enough to be out here during one of our events, you can volunteer for one of our events, or ride it, either way, and that'll kind of give you an idea of how we operate and what we do for fun. And of course, the bottom line with our events is still, it all goes back into the stewardship. So any net profit is right back to supporting our trail programs.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, you have a cooler job than AV.
Well, I don't. Well, you guys, you got to get the boss man, Mr. Hood, to definitely let you guys come out and play with us a little bit, because he's been and George too, helping in the crew that's always with us. But for many years, it was my band's sound system that I would bring, which consisted of whatever 1,000-watt.
Oh, did we lose him?
Yamahas I had. We had just some meaty on roofs, and the main street in Downeyville is small, but still you have to have a lot of volume to project, my voice, even through town, when you've got, a town of 400 turns into a town of 4,000 over the weekend. It's pretty noisy. And then we started paying. We had a company that did our stage and lighting, and he would give us a pretty good deal and do most of the work. And I don't know what year I met John, but just kind of out of nowhere, he offered and said, "Hey, we can we can really ramp up your system and give you full coverage throughout Downeyville and the expo." And so we went for it. And that year he's setting up the sound system. They're doing checks. The stage is being built, and he hands me a wireless microphone. And at the time, I think I was using just a regular Shure SM58 wireless, which obviously nice band vocal. And I think he handed me one that the microphone itself. And I said, John, this looks kind of expensive. And it was probably $1,000 microphone that he handed me, from this stuff. And I'm like,
yeah.
John, you realize what I do. And we're on asphalt. I will be having some adult beverages throughout this event while talking. This microphone's going to be going in and out of my bike pocket, my bike shorts. And it's just, and he's like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that started. And from then on, I'm like the luckiest announcer, especially for a nonprofit stewardship putting on events, because I probably have the most expensive sound system of any event that I've ever been to, in little old Downeyville or in Quincy or even at Grinduro when we're still producing Grinduro. So, and he always has, it's always well, John, I don't know if we can do this or not. Oh, no. Oh, I have a solution. I just got something brand new. It'll be fine. And that's from outdoor projectors, that in the middle of the day sun, still full high definition on the screen, to sound systems. And yeah, it's been a great relationship, and countless dollars. I mean, to put a number on that, it'd be massive, but we really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Always a way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. Well, that's so awesome. Thank you for coming and being a guest on our podcast. Do you guys have any questions for Marty before he heads back to the green room?
I think about covered it. I think that was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm totally coming there. When is your big event?
So the Lost and Found Gravel Festival, which is our gravel grinder, it is Saturday, June 3rd. And we do some VIP stuff on that Thursday and Friday before that. And we'll hope to bring on between 1,200 and just under 1,500 gravel riders here in the Portola area. We call it the gravel capital of the West. And they'll have a choice from a 35, a 60, and 100-mile course through some beautiful country. And they're going to get to see some snow this year, most likely in early June. And then the 25th anniversary Downeyville Classic will be the week of July 13th. I believe the 13th through the 16th, or right around whatever that weekend is. And that one's going to be a fun one. So started in 1995, and it's almost sold out already. And that's probably one of the funnest things that I've ever done in my life. And when my wife and I first met, and she wanted me to come down in the summertime, she was a teacher at the time, wanted to meet her parents. I went, well, that first weekend in August, that's the Downeyville Classic. And I can't miss that. I don't think she quite understood it until she visited with me the following year. Cool. And then she understood. So, but yeah, we got to get you guys out, either the events, or we do a few mountain epics, which are weekends where we bring out 100 folks to dig dirt, work on the actual very trails, volunteer wise. We get compensated through grant matches on those, and we have a good time. Barbecues, of course, using the farm audio and video services for those as well. So yeah, you got to get them. Got to give them reasons to come out, especially from the Midwest and the good old land of Texas.
Yes, I would love to. The summertime sounds perfect because it's hotter than bejesus here. So,
oh yes, I was born in Oklahoma, and made it a point when visiting my grandmother and family back there that May was about the last month I would go, and then I would not go back until October.
There you go.
Same.
That's the way to do it.
So,
now I live
humidity here. And heat, not my friend.
All right, well, please hang out in our barn while we finish up our last few segments, and because we want to chat when we're all done. It's been really great having you here, and I hate leaving the house, but I'm going to need to go hiking. It just sounds too good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Especially now that I'm hungry for that bacon Western from Carl's Jr. I'm going to definitely need some hiking to go.
Look what I did.
That craving. Yep, you did it. Awesome. Thanks you guys for having me too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
Uh-oh, what's this? This next Flip the Script segment is brought to you by FarmWAN, the weather alerting plugin from the folks at FarmAssist. Don't let a tornado ruin your team's call. Get the weather on your touch panel in real time. FarmAssist, your enterprise AV programming experts.
That was really good.
Thank you.
That's a good sponsor.
Us.
Yeah, we're a great sponsor.
Okay, are you ready now? And there's no audio for this, so I can't mess it up the audio. This clip has no audio. For our, I keep trying to lower expectations so I can't mess up this segment. Our mildly satisfying clip of the week.
Let's
Ready?
do it.
Oh my God.
It's taking so long, it's got to be worth it. There's got to be a payoff. Nice, right?
That is most definitely satisfying.
And look, rainbow.
Aw,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some sound behind that in editing.
That clip has it all.
that was good.
That's a win.
That's a win.
I am mildly satisfied.
Successful segment.
Mildly satisfied.
All right, now unless I feel like I forgot a segment. Oh, because we didn't do pharmacy this week. That makes sense. We did the barn instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're ready for our final thoughts.
I think so.
All right, here we go.
Hello. Today's final thoughts with Kelly. I really enjoyed the planetary, astronomy, interesting facts, especially, the last one we had talked about where Uranus was originally named George, which just also happens to be Fang's name. This is also a planet. Interesting fact that I'll leave you with today. Venus is the only planet to spin clockwise, which is interesting because it travels around the sun once every 225 Earth days, but it rotates clockwise once every 243 days. Isn't that strange? We live in such an amazingly weird and wild world. So I will leave you guys with that. Thanks to Marty for being our guest, and Fang and David as always. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week.